Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Water and Sewer Commission meeting for Monday, November 6th, 2023. Good to see all the commissioners. I believe the mayor is not going to join us today, so I'll be running the meeting. With that said, I'll open the meeting to anybody from the public wishing to speak. Any public participation?
Hi.
Well, you can just come up, sit down, or you can, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Marissa DeLappa. I own a laundromat over on Broad Street in Glens Falls, and I'm here to grieve some of my water bill from last quarter. So, as I believe you might be aware, the water was brown for quite some time. Poor Bill got phone calls from me nearly every day. So between the issue in mid-September and then the issue with when the hydrants were being flushed, we had to close our business for accumulation of 3 days. But the bigger issue I have is that I had to run massive amounts of water in order to clear the line. So I was running, 18 machines 3 or 4 times a day, just flushing, and I was still getting machines filling up with brown water. So my water bill for this quarter, last year was $898.84, and my water bill for this quarter, or third quarter this year, was $1,463.42. As I understand, it wasn't an exact same measurement in days for the quarter, but $550 more for a quarter. We're at, it's about around, probably a little bit more than $550. I should have come with my math prepared,
No,
but
that's okay.
it's just a lot to pay in extra water, for everything that was going on, and to lose a pretty decent amount of business as a result of it. So I'm just looking for some little bit of resolve if possible.
Okay. How this works is, thank you for
Talking
speaking
too
with
much,
us.
probably?
No, no, believe me, you were very short and concise. And thank you. We will be looking at the billing issues, coming forward,
Okay.
and the board will make a recommendation, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Perfect.
And I will let you know.
Wonderful. Thank you very much
Okay.
for hearing me. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Moving on, we'll go to the stormwater moment with the stormwater best management practice from EPA regarding this elaborate description that Sheila found and was printed out, and goes over the description, applicability of the different types of material used in de-icing roadways, storage, material selection, application, monitoring and tracking, training, maintenance consideration, limitations, cost considerations, and in the last paragraph it addresses indirect or hidden costs such as damage to infrastructure, automobiles, vegetation, human health, and environment due to salt, to the range of 800 to more than 3,000 per ton of the salt used. So depending on what you use and how it's used, what kind of impacts it has on the environment, how it should be housed, and all of the natures. If you look at the graph or spreadsheet about the different kinds of costs, you can see how much difference in the cost there is in the materials depending on what kind of temperature zones you're looking at. So with that said, does anybody have any questions on the
What do you use sodium chloride in here?
Yeah, we use sodium chloride, and we mix it with some sand.
The other things, magnesium chloride and calcium chloride, they're soluble too, so you can wash it in the water too.
Some of them are very good, and not as harmful as the others to the environment, yes.
Yeah.
But, you have the costs. What outweighs
If
the risk
anybody-
factor and the cost
If
factor.
anybody reads the Adirondack Explorer, it's a magazine I get, there's a bunch of articles. This magazine about road salt and the environmental damages going to the water and to the, the environment and the Adirondacks and up through around Lake George. So it's pretty interesting.
Adirondack magazine?
Adirondack Explorer is the name of the magazine. It's good.
I had a comment too, but
Sure.
this reminded me of, and after what you all said, this sounds like I'm piling on. But respectfully, and I totally understand they're trying to keep things safe and do their job, but City Park, I don't know if it was last winter or the winter before, and I know it happened winters prior, it looked like there was about a 50-pound bag every 3 sidewalk cubes. And it was so much that my foot was unsure stepping on that much granular, and I was like, this is enough salt for this park for 3 winters, let alone before we were after
So
one
the-
storm.
so the-
And I, somebody could have been told, make sure you do the park good, and been cast off to do the job, and they did it great. But it like so
In
good
spots.
that now like the Hudson River from here to Albany is bare on the banks, kind of good. So I just wondered, as much of a pain as there's a million things going on at DPW and stuff, if that's anything that seasonally people say, hey, don't forget, we're making sure that we're not putting tons per square inch. We're
Sure,
talking more like,
I can speak to Tom about their disbursement of sodium chloride.
and it could have been, maybe a spreader was broken and that's just what it was before the storm. But I have noticed it quite a few times walking through there, getting to like Larac or, the Wood Theater and things like that. And it's just been like, my God, this looks like a substantial part of the city budget here, just laying on the sidewalk. So I've always wanted to mention that and never have, but this reminds me, fortunately or unfortunately.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, or comments on the stormwater moment? Okay, we'll move forward then. We'll move on to billing issues, included in your packet. Were 2. First was from 4 Thornberry Drive. Let's see. They're asking for some relief in the basics. It's the same as we discussed at last month's meeting, that the meter readings were later than normal, so instead of doing a 90-day cycle, this is a 111-day cycle. So again, as Marissa spoke when she came up in front of the board, a lot of people used a lot of water flushing their homes to flush out the brown water. So anybody that called with any questions or concerns, I asked them to go ahead and write a letter to the board so that we can make adjustments if necessary. And so if you've reviewed that, what I would say is that if we're looking to go ahead and make a correction, that Adam and I will make the correction, because it's not, as I said, apples to apples. It's 90 to 111 days. So there is some discrepancy there just in the amount of days, not in probably the total amount of usage because of how long they had to flush there.
What is it gonna do for 90 days and 111 days? What the corrections?
Well, we can divide, we'll divide it by, whatever. We'll divide the 90 days by what they were charged and how many cubic, the usage,
Yeah.
and we'll get an average, so that we'll know what
You
they
get a
use.
daily average out of it even.
You will get that's what I'm saying, we'll get a daily average. Basically what I did for Marissa too is we got a daily average, and then we'd see, then we can compare it. Then we can say, well, if they used this much water in 111 days, what would it be, what would the
Right.
same amount be in the 90 days compared to the last third quarter from last year? And then we'll know what the difference was.
So you're gonna, from 90 days to 111 days, you're gonna add next one?
The next one will be shorter because this one was longer. So the next, if we were going on a 90-day basis, so close to a 90-day basis, the next quarter will only be 69 days because we went 111 days in this third quarter.
Yeah, but you're gonna average.
We're gonna average, we're gonna use the daily average.
Yeah,
So say if, just in Marissa's case, their daily average was 231.66, but because of the water usage they used, it was 293.69. So that the difference between 231.66 and 293.69 is probably the amount of water they used in that time when they were doing all their flushing. So we'll make a calculation to figure out what the credit should be, if that's the way the board wants to proceed.
I'm opposed to that one because I use a lot of water too, and all of the people in the city use a lot of water. So that's the breaks, you know. I can't see.
Well, I mean, a lot of people were under the minimum, so some were impacted for a day or two, some were impacted for weeks, depending on their locations. And Thornbury especially, that was one of our worst areas, where they were almost daily for some reason. We don't know why, and it's the same reason we don't know why, you know, one neighbor had it and one neighbor did. I mean, I think we've had, you know, commissioners say some were more affected, some of them weren't.
Yeah. I mean, some people still were under the minimum even though
they used more water than they normally did, but they were still under the
yeah,
minimum.
like us, I think we were. It's just, yeah.
And it basically depending almost on where you were in the city and how long you were affected. And it seemed like down in the Thornbury area, down in that section of the town, for some reason they were impacted much heavier. And then you can see by the next one too, they were down in that area too.
That's a breaks. I don't know.
Well, I think that's, what the board has to
So
make.
So one was just here with the laundromat. I feel sorry for her. She had to close up,
Yeah,
and
so I basically
you know, she's not looking for restitution for the days she lost in her business. It's just, you know, she just wants to go back to a normal bill,
Mhm.
which I'm sure she's.
well, that was the first one on Thornbury. And the next one we had was on 10-2nd. And that was another area that was impacted.
Yeah.
And then you can see, you know, how,
I wanted to ask about this. Is this usage increase from March to October, is that higher June usage because of the shorter dirty water thing we had earlier in the year? Because this one looked to me like there might actually be like a plumbing issue, because from 650, although it just keeps increasing with the
well, that's what
exception.
we also went out and even
you
if
did
they,
check it?
we believe that they probably have a leak.
Yeah.
And that's what we discussed with them. And I think Chuck went out and checked it. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I just.
But
they've
you can
already
see,
done it.
you can see how the last one is just astronomical compared to even,
Yeah.
you know,
The 17th.
yeah, so we can see those two.
There.
So basically,
So you're gonna figure the average usage and come up with a,
for all the people that have come in so far for any kind of
Okay.
restitution, I would recommend that the board just, you know, allow us to credit their accounts.
do we need a motion for that, or?
Yeah, we should.
I would say.
I'll move that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
No.
I would also make just, and I'm sure you're aware, that this is a one-time
Yes.
thing. I don't know whether that still falls under the thing, because it was a, you know, thing that was created somewhere, and maybe not by us or somebody, but it was not.
Well, it was an impact of, you know, the infrastructure being in the condition that it's in.
But to take a look at whatever comes up again.
Yeah. So you're gonna take, just so the resolution's clear, you're gonna take what their bill should be based on the 111 days, and then the relief would be that'd be your baseline, then the relief would be the excess usage on top of that.
Correct.
Gotcha,
Their
okay.
daily usage.
So I think that was your point, Peter. They're still gonna have to pay for their 111 days of water. They're not gonna be getting free 21 days of water. The relief would be the difference between what their 111-day bill should have
Normally
been
be.
versus what their excess usage was because of the black water. That's what these folks are looking for relief. So they're still gonna have to pay for their normal usage for the 111 days. Then next quarter will be shorter, but if you add those 2 quarters together, they're still gonna pay for 180 days worth of water usage. They're not getting a break off what their base bill would be. They're only getting a break on what their excess usage would be because of the black water.
How do you figure excess usage?
But with a daily average times 111.
Calculating the daily average.
Oh,
The difference between what they used in the 111 days at the usage rate that they used this quarter compared to the daily usage they used the last third quarter. So we can compare
Oh.
apples to apples.
I don't understand that.
We still need to vote on it.
Yes, so
Okay, well-
who's in favor?
I'd change my vote.
Okay.
Unanimous? All right, thank you. All right. Moving forward, we have the resolutions. First, we have approval of the minutes from the October 2nd,
Did we make that
2023.
correction that was in there?
So I don't have them in front of me, but what was the issue? Was
We
it
spoke- we spoke about it at the workshop.
Yeah.
was it the October minutes?
Yeah, October 22nd, 2023.
Those minutes? So what was the issue? I just saw them in front of me.
Look,
It was the
Chris was-
adjournment
Chris-
had Chris.
Chris wasn't
that
here,
was-
but he made a motion.
He made- yeah.
I gotcha.
adjourn.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. My copy and paste sometimes. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the
amended
minutes
minutes.
with that correction.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay.
Chris is good, but.
She and I are in tune, I can.
Okay, approval of the warrant? Any questions? No questions?
No,
Approval?
Warrant.
All in favor?
Right?
good.
Thank you. Approval of the Glasgow UV to be sole source provided for our new UV system. We have an existing UV system which was put in place about 10 years ago, Chris? 13 years ago, I'm sorry. 13 years ago with one of the upgrades. It's not run properly now for 8 of those years, for about 8 years.
It had a 10-year life expectancy.
Okay, so we've gone past that, and what we're looking to do is replace in kind, because we don't replace in kind, we have to reconfigure the whole UV channel, the disinfection channel, and it would be a much larger scale project, much more expensive. The new Glasgow UV system is an upgraded system. It will save us over time. If you look, they gave us a breakdown. On the last page, we'd be looking at an annual savings of almost $70,000 in electricity, because right now, we turn the UV system on May 1st, and we turn it off on October 31st, and it runs at 100%. It does not have its flow proportional capabilities any longer, and hasn't for, Chris, several years.
I've been here 7 years and hasn't worked.
Okay. So, with that said, so if we're sending 2 million gallons through it, 2 a.m., or we're sending 25 million gallons through at 4 p.m., it's still at 100%. So with this, it'll be flow proportional. So
Oh, okay.
it'll dim, and it'll go to maximum at the highest level, which I believe is the 20 MGD, and it'll go to the lowest at whatever we set that rate at. And from obviously, the basis of this is to limit the disinfection outlined by our speedies permit, and that's what the UV does.
Another good thing too is reusing the existing weir and everything, so I think
Yeah.
you're talking about $150,000 savings there.
Yeah, there's a whole litany of things that go into the place, that the fact that we go ahead and we're able to use the same footprint that the Glasgow fits in right now. Jason and Chris were instrumental in making sure that we got the exact replacement that we needed. We've also been told by the manufacturer, if we go ahead and order it before January 1st, we save another $20,000 in planned increases in equipment that they're looking at. We did plan on putting this in the budget for next year, but the council recommended, and the mayor recommended, and the council agreed that we used ARPA funding for this, so that we can get the one-time purchase and go ahead and save the money.
So we saving 20,000?
We'll be saving $20,000 just in the equipment.
That's proven.
Yeah, so.
Are there
and
any
that's-
estimates on wiring it yet, or
What's that?
any estimates on the electrical, is this not included?
$15,000 will get that done, 10 grand in labor, 5 grand in, new transformer and some conduit.
Okay. The money you're saving is more than.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very quick turnaround and payback on this. If anybody has any questions, if not, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
No, I have my own thing. I just have one.
No, that's
So as long as I can see this one working.
No, you're fine.
Well, that first one was for the sole
Yeah,
source.
that's what you want when
The
you
second
don't.
approval would be for the Glasgow UV quote. So, can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So moved.
300,000?
All in favor?
300,000?
Yes, 300, well, yep, 315,000, 300,000 for the equipment, and then 15,000 for installation of the electrical and new transformers.
Okay.
All right? All right, thank you. So the next motion we have in front of us is for the approval of Creighton and Manning, SA number 2, supplemental agreement number 2. With that, I'll have Jeremy speak to that. He's much more in tune with this project.
So what this is for is part of the DRI project over on South Street, Elm Street, Exchange Street, and Park Street. There's a streetscaping element, resurfacing of the road, new curbs, new sidewalks. That's all being funded through Department of State or Empire Development Corporation. So you'll see numbers in your paperwork that speak to the DRI portion. But what we're looking for from the commission is approval of the sewer separation element of that project. Currently, there's a combined sewer system on Elm Street and Park Street. So all the stormwater comes down here to the plant. Gets treated unnecessarily. So that work would separate that out and discharge the stormwater into the ground or to the canal. So SA number 2 from Creighton Manning, they're the design engineers on this project. Up till now, we've had agreements to do all the planning and the design work. And now it's time for construction phase services. So the city's negotiated a price with them of $151,500. I think that was down from their initial proposal by 30%. So we feel this is a fair price, and we'll be looking for the permission to make that approval.
What's the timeline for completion of this?
So, yep, good question. That contract was awarded this summer. The contractor mobilized and started doing some preliminary work in October. So this last month. So this will all be wrapped up by June, I think June or July of next year is the substantial completion date. So you may not see a whole lot getting done between now and the first snow flurry, but things will be, I expect things to hit the ground running pretty hard.
If the bid was 1.23 thousand, why would that 1.8 million? Why?
So, question here, the bid for the construction work is about 1.3 million
Yeah.
round up. And then you've got a cost for construction administration services, which is 151,500.
Oh,
You also have some legal fees in there for the bonding. And then we always have to carry a little bit of padding there for contingency. Just so we don't have to go back to the bond council over and over and over, because that costs the city money each time we do that. So, if we do the 1.8, I'm relatively comfortable saying we'll be under that.
Okay.
But it just provides a little room for some unforeseen circumstances.
yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
So this is strictly for the administration of the project?
I'm sorry, what?
This is for the administration of the project, 151.5?
Yes.
Construction administration.
Just the sewer work, the underground work, which is the city's funding through
DRI.
the sewer, bonding through the sewer fund.
So, do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Fine.
Thank you. Not to let Jeremy off the hook, we're looking for approval of the increase to the Elms streetscaping bond.
Yeah, so that's right on the heels of Peter's question. I think 2 years ago, the commission approved the bond resolution for this project. And we do our best to forecast those costs at that time. But then once the actual bids come in, 2 years go by, unfortunately, the numbers always seem to go up and never down. So that's the reason for this resolution. We're looking for the commission's recommendation for the common council to authorize the increasing bond.
So $600,000 bucks.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jeremy.
We'll move on to discussions. As Peter pointed out, there's a large number of calls. That's probably about 70% or maybe 80% of the calls. Those are the ones just that Adam got. I probably got another 40 or 50 that I answered myself. I'm sure Sheila had some and Mary Beth, but that's a list that Adam had that came in during that 2-week period. So just wanted to make
Still no cause, still never found a cause.
well, we think there's a couple different reasons. The surfactant we don't think was coating the pipes quite as effectively as we wanted it to, so we increased the dosing to that. We were also using some potassium permanganate, which we haven't for years, in the upper junction to counteract taste and odor issues with the water. Then we started using some hydrogen peroxide, not hydrogen peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, for an oxidant rather than chlorine, trying to reduce our trihalomethanes and things like that. Because we used to dose chlorine before and after the filters, so we got rid of the pre-chlorine and just did the post-chlorines because you need a residual out in the distribution system to make sure we have the disinfection that carries all the way through the system. So when we did that, we think that the chemicals were reacting with each other, and some of the manganese, was getting through the filters, and then reconsolidating out in the distribution system. So we think that's what the black color was. as opposed to the rust color. So we've discontinued the sodium permanganate at the upper junction, and continue to use the peroxide down at the treatment plant at much lower dosage, and it should still be able to do what we need to do. The one concern we have is Halfway Brook, because that's, when we use that, that's where we usually get the organic taste and odors. So what we try to do there is blend it with the upper junction, because we have to use it, because if something happened and then we had to go to Halfway Brook, that whole pipe would be full of water that was sitting there for who knows how long. But, so we have a standard operating procedure that once a month we use Halfway Brook, whether by itself or in conjunction or blended with the upper junction. So we're keeping an eye on all of those different reasons to see if that was what created them, but we obviously won't know until next spring when we do our next flushing program.
You ever determine who the big user was?
No, we weren't able to, we looked back at a couple of the larger businesses and nothing from them, just normal, and again, it's not that we don't want people to use the water,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
maybe not, 1,500 gallons for 6 minutes at a clip. Maybe if they could, slowly use it rather than that, but, we had it in July and then we had it in September, but we haven't had it since, so.
Strange.
So that's the other. Next is the harvest inspection, so I left a couple of report that from the forester that we got. I was up there this time, and F&W, Tom Gilman with them, was very happy with the company that was doing it. They were in and they're actually complete now. They've already completed their
Is that right?
yeah, they're done. Yeah.
Oh.
They're just pulling their equipment off, and they've done the 2 areas that they said they would do, done, and some of the machinery that they use is just massive to cut all that stuff down. And as I said, they were very, very happy with, the way they did all of their work up there and how they left the areas and cleaned up after themselves. They actually made a whole new road up not Butler Pond, but Bayberg, I can't think of their name. It was, the one that runs down the Gurney Lane.
Buckby Road?
Buckabee, yeah, Buckabee Road. So what you'll do if you go up there, you'll see it, if you're going from Buckabee down Gurney Lane, it's up on your left, but they'll be putting boulders there so no one can utilize it. And, they dragged everything out so that everything will reforested by itself.
Nice.
This report says, have less marked trees uncut and have dragged bags of wood left and skid trails, bars.
Steep skid
Yeah.
trails needed water bars.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, so that means they did them.
they did.
Yeah, trail needs, so they did the water bars, so wherever, they left big gouges or anything, put water bars in there so that the water just won't rush. It has something that has built up and slowly go out over.
Ah. Didn't
And how they, have drags of wood been left, what they do is they drag it so that, they disturb the soil, so the seeds go down into the soil and it reforests.
Okay, but this right here, it says stump high, yes, or no. Have trees been left uncut, yes. Trees been left uncut?
Yes, if they had reached their quota,
Oh.
they didn't need to go ahead and cut the ones that were already marked.
Oh.
So they probably go in and they mark all of the white pine or whatever they're cutting. And if they get to their quota where they're, what they need, then they'll leave those left uncut.
Oh, I thought you cut everything.
No, it's not clear cut. They do leave some of them. But I will double check on that one to make sure that I'm telling that correctly.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? No questions? No questions? Okay, we'll move on to the budget. That, I'm not sure if everybody's met Tom Monaco.
Yeah, he was at a workshop.
Yeah, okay. You have his PowerPoint in front of you. Screwed it up already. Sheila, I screwed it up already. Try to advance it. I'll step away from the remote. Oh. Okay. Floor.
So, should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Yep.
So, we went through the budget, took a while, in terms of how we think about, I guess, raising rates. We initially started out with 8%, ratcheted down to 6%. I think we're settled now, can we say?
Yep.
I think we're settled now at around a 5% increase for both water and sewer. Now, there's some problems with our revenue. I don't know if you're that familiar with it. Our revenue up, this is based on the 6%, is up 158,000. We go to 5%, we're gonna be up about 140,000, about, let's call 1.3%. This is an old slide. Our recurring revenue is going to be down 0.7%. The reason for that, we've lost our largest client, Lehigh Cement. Okay, that represents about 8.4% of 2023 metered rent. So Lehigh Cement is gone. We're not accounting for that in our revenue stream going forward. We've lost that. But as metered rents are down 5.1%, we're still looking for, it's going to be a 5% projected increase. Now, we're not going to have interfund transfers this year, but we're receiving in sewer fund one-time Hudson River revitalization money, approximately $700,000. Might be more, might be less, but that is filling the hole from the interfund transfers that we used last year. So we're not taking money out of the sewer fund, nor are we taking it out of the water fund.
That's
so
from
we found
that Hudson River revitalization grant. That's finally was finalized. The last payment was made to the contracting engineering firm. So then we could send it into the state, and that's what the reimbursement should be from.
so
Is
it's
it
a new
split
fund.
between water and sewer?
What's that?
This 700,000, is that split between water and sewer, or?
It's strictly sewer.
Sewer only, and that effectively replaced the interfund transfers because we've been for years whittling down the fund balances. So we have to somehow make up for it. This year it's a one-off with $700,000 from the revitalization project. So if we look at expenses, we've been able to, through the help with Bill's help and Jason's help, Chris's help, we've been able to reduce expenses by about 5% year on year, and that is despite increases in our medical costs of 14%, which the 14% increase is basically higher than
basically our overall revenue increase. So medical costs are eating away at our revenues quite significantly, and that's despite last year having about a 7 to 10% increase in medical costs. So medical costs are accelerating. We're seeing debt service costs down 15.9%, services down 15, equipment costs down 33, utilities down 10.6%. Wages, it's all contractual, as you know, up 1.8%. So that's not and that's all from union contracts, et cetera. 1.8%, and that's inclusive of overtime as well. So it's not that's not a terrible increase. Now the water plant and sewer plant, we had a lot of asks. We need to replace a lot of things. Things are getting old, they're antiquated. So the water plant cut back their asks from 500,000 to 160. So we are really at, we're running fairly tight in terms of what we can do. The sewer plant cut back their asks from 1.1 million to 507,000.
Excuse me, what's
Yeah.
the cutback? What's the cutback we're talking about? 1 point, well,
Okay, so there are needs. There are needs to keep the plant running.
yeah,
One of those cuts, Peter, were the UV system.
Yeah.
So we were, initially was asked in the budget, and then we pulled it out and put it into the ARPA. There was some other stuff that we said, we could survive without for, maybe next year or push it off a year. There's a bunch of different little asks that we were looking for, whether we were going to replace some pumps or what were we looking, Chris, the water supply pumps, the plant water supply pumps was one of the asks, a couple other things. Up at the water treatment plant, they were looking at some
We
new
have
equipment.
2 750 gallon a minute pumps, 2 1,000 gallon a minute pumps that are built from 1986, and one of them's already failed, the 750. So all we've done is we replumbed stuff, so we can get away with one pump. But we're running pumps that are approaching 40 years old. They're worn out.
With a life expectancy of 20 years.
so you, Chris, you asked for 1 million, 1.3, then they cut it down 500,000? That's the saving.
It's what we do is we put everything in we would like to have,
Yeah,
and then we send it to Bill, Tom, and they say, what do we really need to have at this time? Can we go another year on this pump? Can we go another year on this process? And we try to spread it out, try to do as much as we can through budget instead of taking out bonding. And that's what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff coming out of that. Instead of bonding it, some of the stuff that we bonded in the past are bonded longer than its life expectancy.
yeah,
We're trying to stop that. That's
Yeah.
all we're doing, is building debt for the future,
right,
instead of just pay the bill now. It's not gonna get cheaper as we go.
yeah.
So we're trying to save the interest rates of these other purchases.
Okay.
You want me to go through in a little more detail with water and sewer, or should I just go into what the real issues are because of the big problem?
We'll go right through water and sewer.
You want to go through it?
Yeah,
You want to
go
go through it?
yeah.
All right. All right. Before we get into the details, the problem that we have, the biggest problem that we have is revenue. Just taking a look at and what I've done here is I've looked at revenue where we were at 2010, okay, when rates were 332. That was the minimum charge, 332, the flat rate in 2010. But the problem is that looks like around 2012, and then again around 2018, rates were cut. They were cut twice, okay? And what I've been able to do here is take a look at, over time, if we just kept the rate at 332, how much in revenue did we lose? okay, per year. This is on a yearly basis, okay? So, if we go to 2023, we're down about $380,000, but that's based on 2010 rates. Okay, we've cut our rates. We're down into the 280s at this point still, and we're below the watermark. We're $380,000 short. In previous years, as we were cutting, we were down over $1.2 million. If we just kept that rate steady, we've been down $1.2 million. So, but if we inflation adjusted from the 2010 rate, okay, just at 332, our rates are, we're going back. Our foregone revenues, inflation adjusted, are in the millions of dollars. If we get 332 and assume an inflation rate based on the Northeast utility average, that's ranged around 2 to 3% per year, except for in say 21, 22, when inflation was around 7%. If we just inflation adjusted from 332 straight line up, our revenues are down $1.3 million just off of the 2010 rate, simply inflation adjusted. So that's our biggest problem is we've cut rates twice in the span of 10 years, and today we're not even back to where we were in 2010, and we're at 2024. So this has been a big challenge, been a lot of pressure on the water and sewer department to try to make ends meet. And that's the biggest problem that we're having, and we're trying to get rates a bit higher.
Wait,
Now,
you skipped a
what's that?
one. You skipped one.
You want to go back to that one?
Yeah,
I figured I would.
10,000.
I mean, well, this,
Yep.
you're in your comparison.
Yeah,
So we're looking at basically at expenses, the overall expenses. Okay, 2023 to 24, wages and benefits, that increases primarily because of medical up 3.6%, chemicals up 9.2. I think overall chemicals, what, 20%? 20%? Is
Yeah.
that right? 20% increase? Okay. Insurance has been a problem, or regular insurance. A lot of that is hydrants in there. But we're down on our utility costs 10.6%, down on equipment costs almost 33%. External services down 15%. This is all in our forecast for 24. And we're just going to show you in this section here the percentage of overall expenses, where they're coming from. So wages and benefits, no surprise, 34%, up from 31% a year ago. Debt service is down. Debt service is down, which is it went from 31.4% to about 28%. Same with external services as a percentage of overall expenses. That's really it. So the two largest deltas, wages and benefits due to insurance, and debt service because we don't have additional debt. We've been able to reduce our debt payments in the water segment.
what's the external services? What is it?
External services would be legal or contracted services
Oh,
outside.
Okay.
It's Don Colts, probably a big portion of that, right?
Don Colts, I think, biosolids
Oh, yeah, I see.
consideration.
One question, what was YOY stand for?
Year on year.
Oh,
Year on year increase or decrease percentage.
okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then we go through the sewer again. Revenues are expected to be up. It's called 3.5%. This is based off of 6%. Recurring revenue was up 6.6. Metered rents are down 4.2. Okay. Lehigh Cement, 9.6% of last year's metered rents. No interfund transfers, as we talked about. And this particular segment is supported by the Hudson Valley Revitalization Project in sewer. Sewer expenses down 3.1% year on year. It's still YOY. just like medical insurance, debt service is down, equipment costs are down, general supplies are down. Again, wages only increased, wages are increased across the board about 1.8%. And we talked about our asks before, that we cut those in half. And these are just the charts. You can see where things are coming from, where the costs are, changes year on year. And we go through the same thing with a year-on-year comparison with sewer expenses and percentage of overall expenses. Again, wages and benefits are up. Debt service, about flattish. You'll see the big change in the water department. External services are down. Okay. The water expense highlights, we're down 5%. Again, medical covered. Our debt service is down 15.9%. That is the big move for us in the water department. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, that's the end of it. Are there, does anybody have any questions for me that I can answer? Yes.
In page 1, verse 7, it says 252,000 rehides.
Yes.
And then in page 2, it says 360,000.
That's right. So it's split. So in page 2, we're taking water and sewer in aggregate.
Okay.
So 252 is sewer, and I believe it's 108
Okay.
is in water.
Okay.
It's broken up that way.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So,
So,
in the budget,
yes,
the budget for resolution, it says 3,321.87, and then in water expenses on the chart,
yeah.
it says 368,000.
Yeah, as Tom said, his charts were a little older. We made changes.
Oh,
So, and
the same with the water.
same with the water. So we made, after Tom had his PowerPoint presentation completed, we went to the city council. We made some adjustments. So that's why you see a reduction. And it should say 2024.
So we don't get to make adjustment to the water and sewer board, but the council does.
We can make adjustments too. I mean, if you see something that you don't like, let me know. I mean, we have time before it goes back to the council.
Well, it's hard.
But I mean, we've cut this. This is a pretty bare bones budget. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking for.
Bill?
Yes.
Mention one thing on the budget. Our sludge disposal costs increased $110,000 for this year. So we will be spending $992,000 to dispose of our sludge.
Uh-huh.
So when you look at the increase, that is part of it.
Yeah.
And our sludge disposal costs are jumping that much, and we are still cheaper than other people in the area, a lot cheaper. We will be up to 1.1 million next year in 2025.
Yeah. Well,
And that's our third year of our 3-year contract.
Yes.
And I think, what did we, last year Saratoga was 164.
Last year Saratoga was 164, they're renegotiating this year, I don't know the numbers yet.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends if we're going up. But
Oh, it's a problem in the state of, there is no sludge handling method. We're getting beat up by not taking septage.
Mm.
This is part of it. is taking septage creates some problems in the process that we've always been able to manage in the past, but it lowers the solids down too. And we want to keep the solids as high as we can for disposal because it costs less to dispose of solids than it does of water.
And what,
It all just blends together all the way around, and we're not the only ones struggling with this. Everyone is.
Yeah,
And it's-
I understand that, yeah.
and, you know, last year it was energy. Energy's pretty good this year, but biosolids again went up quite a bit. Chemicals at the water treatment plant went up 20%. Anybody that has a pool knows, you know, try to buy chlorine or, you know, that's one of the biggest expense up there is hypochlorite. So that's what we disinfect with. You know, but that's, you know, that's gone up astronomically along with the sequestrant, and now there's using another oxidizer, the peroxide. These are all, you know, and then we use citric acid to make sure that the filters are clean and, you know, these other chemicals that we
Is
use.
budget sustainable? I mean, are we cutting to the point where we're looking at a huge increase down the road?
Well, that's why we're looking slowly at increasing it, you know.
I know those couple of years the end of that hurt.
Yeah.
But nothing.
Well, that's what Tom, that one graph, as you see, when we had the two decreases instead of
Yeah.
just systematically, just 1 or 2% increases would have,
No, yeah, nobody complains about it. It's just
it's just, so.
a small amount, but.
But that's, you know, that's where most of our increases came this year. There were two things, as Tom alluded to. We have the $700,000 coming back from the grant.
Right. So we're not gonna get that next year.
No,
so
we're not gonna get that next year. We do have a small escrow, about $225,000 that's coming off the book in 2024. So that helps. And then the following year, I think, another one, like a $1.2 million one comes off. So that'll help next year. But after that, we don't know. And then, you know,
Probably have to replace something else.
exactly, we may have to go into bonds or some other stuff. If we're, you know, we're looking at some of the stuff, like Chris said, if we're looking at a dryer project to dry the sludge, so instead of sending, you know, 3 trucks a day, we send 3 trucks a week.
Right.
You know, instead of sending all water to
You
be
just gotta make
disposed
the
of.
initial investment to.
The problem is, you know, we're looking at, you know, maybe a $20 million project. But, you know, if you look at that numbers and, you know, over time, how does it pay for itself?
Right.
Because, you know, instead of sending 22% solids to Wheeler Brady, we can spend, you know, 66%. So, and then on their end, it costs less too because
Yeah.
it takes a lot of energy to burn water.
What would the payback, how long, what kind of a time frame would that? It's
What
gotta
were we
be
looking at, Chris, for a payback for a dryer?
I think it was 7 years.
7 years? That's not too bad, really. I was thinking more along the line of 20.
Between a 20 and 30-year life expectancy. 7 years was the
Wait, for the
break even.
machine?
For the machine.
You get 20, 30 years out of it?
You have to, well, we need to rehab the incinerator room, purchase a machine, regular maintenance of the machine, it should go 20 to 30 years.
I assume that would be like 7 to 10. That's
No.
really long.
And then by doing that, I mean, I'm getting calls every day right now for people who want to bring sludge here. And I'm turning them down because I am 80% of my capacity to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to save 20% for the city, and for Queensbury, South Glens Falls, our contracts. These are all things that we look at when we're, how much can we dispose of? Well, I'm at 80% disposal, I can't take it anymore. I'm turning stuff away,
That's,
and it's everybody.
That's 7 out of 20 though. I would not have thought that would,
It's a
that
very
would
quick
last that
turnaround.
long.
I mean, the whole system is based on natural gas use, because the natural gas heats the oil burns off the water and sludge, it's recovered, we don't need air permits, there's a bunch of stuff that we did not need that we had with the incinerator. That's equipment we don't have to buy to test the air, that's where the savings is. Then as rates go up and we're sending less water, they will go to 90% dry. We may not want to go to 90% dry, but it will go to 90% dry. Even if we go to landfill, which would be expensive, I'm sending a 1/10 to landfill of what I'm sending now.
You're still looking at biosolid, a blank plant here?
The biochar over in Monroe is completely up to their political methods. I can't tell you who's gonna win tomorrow.
What am I gonna do?
And even then, it's under a review by DEC, Articles 27 or 24, something like that. It's a review that, was requested by some of the opponents to it. So there is no promise on what's going to happen.
Oh, I mean, the plant here, we were talking about a plant here.
We looked at 3 different versions. One was a dryer.
Oh.
One was a biochar similar system. One was Listec.
Oh.
The recommended one was using a dryer
Oh, okay.
on that, because one of the problems we don't know is land application,
Oh.
is PFAS, PFOA. It is in soaps, it is in clothing, it's in everything.
Yeah.
Instead of regulating the people that are using the PFOA and PFAS, they want to regulate the municipal wastewater facilities.
Yeah.
So we can't control what's being sent to us, but they want to regulate us on it.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We did increase some revenue. We did increase the septage, the cost of septage. We did increase the
Yeah.
cost of holding tanks, cost of if we do accept sludge at some point.
And we already where everybody else is,
Yeah.
in the same
How
area.
do we make out with, Friends Island? We're having an issue with their discharge.
On Pines Island?
The company, registry to
Oh,
Ames.
Ames. Gulf.
Ames.
Well, we thought we were okay. We've been having some issues in the last couple of days.
Again?
Yeah, yeah. So Chris has been working with them very closely, trying to figure out, what they're doing. They seem to think that they're not sending us anything different, claiming, how do you know it's us? It's easy. You're floating our sludge. We know exactly.
Yeah.
There's only so many people that can send that much nitrogen to us.
Yeah.
So he's been dealing with them, and it may come down to where Chris anticipates we may have to find them. So that'll come before everybody.
Didn't like the first one.
We'll be sending samples out tomorrow morning. I've not told them yet, but if they're watching, they'll hear that. And I will sample them as much as I can to figure out what's going on, because I just got a memo that said they're covered again in sludge. We've not had a problem for this past week, and all of a sudden we're seeing it. I spoke with them. They said, well, is it a brewery? It's not a brewery. It's another industrial customer. I know of no other industrial customer that's been installed in the system that uses that kind of material or any kind of nitrogen. Is it another gas? I don't know, but if I go up and I look, my tanks are bubbling just like they used to. It looks just like it used to. So we're gonna put samplers in on our system, and we're just gonna continually sample them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure it's not them. But the initial numbers are, they put a tank through the sewer at 10:30. At 10:15, I had floating sludge. So I will be gathering all their information and really documenting everything.
All of those numbers have been changed in Chris's spreadsheet for acceptance of septic, sludge, or leachate, holding tank, RV dumping, things of that. So with that said, if you don't have any other questions, I was wondering if I could get a resolution, or acceptance, or the resolution, a motion, send this. Second. All in favor? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Personnel, we did hire a new guy up at the field maintenance crew, so hopefully he's working.
Find somebody.
We've had a couple of applications. Chris is, I think we had 3 or 4 applications for an operator that we're gonna look at some point. Judy will get it to us. Chris is over there shaking his head because he hasn't seen them yet. So, but we're going to go ahead and look at hiring that. I don't have anything for executive session. I will mention that David and I have been working on looking at an attorney that handles the PFAS. So we've been looking at a bunch of different things that they handle. David had a bunch of questions, and we went over them, and we don't know if we're ready to engage a specialist in PFAS or not. So we're just trying to go through that. So with that said, the next proposed meetings the Water and Sewer Workshop is scheduled for November 20th at 2 p.m. And the next regular is welcome to the Christmas season, December 4th. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. The only thing I may mention is if I do get a bunch of other credit requests from Dirty Water, I may turn that workshop into a regular meeting just so
Yeah,
we
it's
can.
fine.
So, depending on, I was gonna say, let's just do it, but let's wait and see, because we haven't really gotten a lot of them.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. There's no other questions.
That was me. You got Chris.
I'll second it though.
I'll figure it out.
Uh,
I know you will.
So the 20th?